Today, we're going to talk about data-driven curriculum design, which all is centered around the assessment. Your data is only as good as the assessment, so this is very important. Assessments should be based on skills and standards, and you're looking to identify a student's zone of proximal development. So you want to start with the skills that are a little lower than you know your student can do, and go to the skills that are a little higher than you know your student can do, so you can figure out where they are in the middle. A test that you know a student is going to get 100% on is not useful for you because it doesn't show you where they have room to grow. Because of that, it's important that these tests be low stakes. You don't want to punish a student for not doing well on a test where the whole point is that they don't do well. You want it to be high stakes enough that they're going to want to do their best and take it seriously, but you don't want to punish them or base their grade on something where, that's not the purpose. They should also be ongoing and varied, ranging from really big assessments to just small checks for understanding. You are also looking to measure proficiency. You don't want to know, can they do it or can they not do it? You're looking for the skills that they kind of can do, but are not there yet. So ways to get that information are multiple trials of the same skill, measuring levels of independence on a skill, or also using rubrics. So you are looking at the standards. It should all be centered around the standards, and in the most cases, your state and district is going to dictate this for you, so you don't have a lot of say, but what you do have say in is which ones you prioritize and how you prioritize them. It's also really important to just understand them because everything should be centered around them and aligned to them. The data itself is the part that overwhelms a lot of people. So it can be very tedious, but there's no point in getting the data if you're not going to use it. Like I said before, your goal is to identify students' zone of proximal development. And a rubric that I really, really like for this is put out by Lakeshore's Sandy assessment. And it goes on a 0 to 4 scale. 4s are skills that a student is getting 80% or higher, and they have mastered. There's no point in continuing to work on them. 0s and 1s are 39% or lower. Those are skills that the student is not ready to work on. It's either going to just stress out the student or they're going to not make any progress or even regress. So you want to look for your 2s and 3s, and those are supported, developed, and emerging partial, which range from 79% to 40%. These are the skills that the student has started to show a little progress on. They're getting sometimes, but they still need more instruction. That's going to be your most efficient skills to focus on. So with those skills, once you've identified your 2s and 3s, you're going to look at this at the individual, group level. So anywhere from setting IEP goals on the individual level to planning at the class level, at the grade level, and as well as dictating school-wide goals. You can also look at this to identify gaps in how you're providing instruction for subgroups. It can also be used to create tier 2 and 3 supports, as well as design your specially designed instruction. You should also be aware of bias in looking at this. All students have the right to learn within their zone of proximal development. So you should be looking at this in a strengths and needs model instead of a deficit model. So you should not be looking at this as good and bad students. You're going to have your group that are, kind of at the standard level, and you're going to have students who are outliers. Those outliers are going to really help you in designing the range and scope of your instruction and creating your specially designed instruction. So the curriculum should be done using backwards design always. It should be based on the data. So you use the data to prioritize which standards you're going to, to figure out how you're going to prioritize standards. So what you're going to do when you get that is map out the standards. And if you can, which is not always possible, you should do this first. If you can't do this first, you should do this alongside the process of mapping out the content, but definitely it should be one of the first steps. And you're going to map it out of, first of all, when and where it's going to fall in the year, how much time you're going to spend on it, as well as what subject areas it's going to fall in. So something that's your school-wide goal might be in every single unit, in every single course. Other, others you might just do in one unit, one course. Either way, it should always come first. Otherwise, it's very, very hard to put in after the fact. It should be centered on your specially designed instruction, and you should be always considering your outliers. And then this brings us back to progress monitoring, which is basically just a restatement of that first thing of assessment. I said assessment should be varied and ongoing, and that's just a reiteration of this. So you should always be doing more assessment, getting more data, and looking at that data to see how you should modify your curriculum. And if you do those things, it should really help make sure that your curriculum is very pointedly addressing the strengths and needs of your actual students.